And Todd, it is 3 o'clock, so if we want to start on time, now would be a good time. Do you want to go ahead and kick us off again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Rock and roll. So, hi everyone. I'm Todd Atlas with EO Raleigh Durham. Welcome to our second virtual learning event out of our series we're calling Coronavirus in Your Business. This is actually the second time we've done this one today. We had a morning session already. Anyway, what started out as a way to connect with our chapter in light of essentially canceling all of our in-person events for the immediate future has turned out to have a lot more interest. I want to thank Olivia and EO Global for inviting EO members across the country. Happy that you could all join us today and hope the series proves valuable. We'd like these to be as interactive as possible and plan to open up the conversation to questions and interactions in classic EO style from our own places of experience. More on that in just a second. I'm going to put my email address and Matt's email address in the chat. So if you have any suggestions for content or any ways that you think we could help with this sort of a format, we will be programming more things moving forward. Before I get going, everyone should have received invitations to our next 2 upcoming webinars, and feel free to bring your key execs if you'd like. So the next one is Thursday at 2:30. That's tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern. It's called Disaster Loans and the SBA. It's going to be about what the playbook is and how you might qualify. Rich Rusikoff has been teaching EO members about bank financing at the MIT Entrepreneurial Masters program for over 15 years, and he wrote the last chapter of Rockefeller Habits. He'll dig into preparing for and qualifying for some of the new loans that are coming. The following Wednesday, that's March 25th, a week from today at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have contingency planning with Randy Nelson. Randy's a former submarine officer, Navy submarine officer, and he's the EO RDU founding member of 20 years and a best-selling author. He'll be helping us process through creating a contingency plan for the business. Today's speakers are EO members Matt Zemon and Brad Stevens. Matt is a past president from EO Raleigh Durham and the founder of and CEO of Bernard. He's also the lead promoter of happiness for a nonprofit called Take 2 Minutes. He has had a virtual leadership team for almost 14 years with as many as 500 employees. Brad is the founder and CEO of Outsource Access and has a team of 100 virtual assistants working from the Philippines and is supporting clients around the globe. So I'm going to turn things over to Matt Zemon to kick this thing off.
Cool. Thanks so much, Todd. Thanks everybody for coming and being part of this today in relatively short notice. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Brad and I are going to start by sharing a bunch of practical tips and tricks. And we're going to look to all of you for questions and comments. So everybody's muted right now. If you would like to speak, there's an place that you can raise your hand so we know and we can call on you. You can also just type in your questions in the Q&A panel, and you can upvote other questions that you see there. And if you haven't answered a question somebody's asked, please throw it in there. So we want this to be as interactive as possible. So just a quick reminder, this webinar will be recorded and shared. So please don't share anything here that you wish to keep confidential. And then finally, you can take notes, but we are posting links to everything we're going to talk about, as well as a whole bunch of other tools at eoraleigh.com/coronavirus. And that you're going to find everything we talk about, plus a recording of today's call if there's something you want to rewind and see or share with somebody else. So today we're going to focus on culture, communication, accountability, goal setting, project management, a whole bunch of miscellaneous tools, and have time to answer questions. And hopefully hear some tools that we haven't thought of yet. And then also, just as a quick note, if some of you have specific needs or specific technologies questions that we don't have an answer to, Centric Consulting, and specifically Mark Fussell, has offered to do 30 minutes for free for anybody, whether it's tech setup, specific questions and answers. No, he's just a good guy. He's worked with some EO members for years, tons of experience, no sales pressure, but I put his information as well in that document for you. So hopefully that becomes a good resource. So I'm going to start this whole thing off with a very practical tip for the vain, or the vanity of all of us, wanting to look our best on video. So the first trick, and I'm going to recommend for, especially if you're doing client meetings, is put up a light. So let me show you. This is me normally without any light in front of my computer. It's not as dynamic as, there we go. Now, hopefully you're not bald like I am with the reflection taking off, but the lights still make a big difference for pumping. And then also your camera should be slightly higher than your head, so people are not looking up your nose and at your eyes this way. They're looking down, and it's this type of perspective. So 2 little tricks and tips with regards to lighting and cameras. I'm still going to give one on sound. So here is, let me just make a switch here. Here is my normal display audio as you hear it. And maybe you have at home dogs or kids or background noise or landscapers or whatever. Let me show you what, like here's some background noise. Everybody can hear that, right? All right. Now I'm going to switch on something called Crisp, K-R-I-S-P. You can download it for your computer. And once you put your Crisp microphone on, all that background noise goes away. So for those of you working at home, problems with unexpected noise, Crisp's a great tool. Brad, you were going to talk about something for sound as well, I believe?
Yeah, I was just going to share, I mean, there's a ton of different headphones that are out there, but the one I've got on, particularly because I'm like going wireless, and it's a Bluetooth one. It's got a little thing that you plug into your USB. It's a Logitech one. It's one that we'll have on that list that you can click the link and check it out on Amazon. But it's just a really good one, really crisp sound, works really well, that I'd recommend.
Awesome, thank you for that. So one of the problems we're going to talk about solving for is going to be a foundational tool. I assume most people have solved this already, but it's just, what do you do for virtual collaboration? My company uses G Suite for Business. This is email, calendar, video, voice calls, docs, everything in one cloud solution, nothing on premise at all. Easy to migrate to. We literally don't have any work phones besides this. And cellular phones. If you're tight on a budget, and you're a Microsoft person, another option is Microsoft Teams with Office 365. Centric Consulting, again, going back to Mark, they are offering 6 months free for companies under 500. And that offer for EO members is in the document that we're going to share at eoraleigh.com/coronavirus. Let's step back for a moment, though, and just talk about the psychology of working at home for a minute, and especially with a team, and what happens when people can't see someone next door or down the hall. How do you know somebody's working? What happens to trust in your organization? And it can erode super quickly when you don't have that belief that somebody is working. So just one tip and trick is just to make sure that your work hours are more known than ever. I'm going to be there from 8 till 7 or whatever it is that you're going to do. And ideally, use a Microsoft Team or a Google or something so that people can see whether you're online or not. And that it reduces the feelings of anger or stress on whether you're working or not. Brad, back to you.
Yeah, so sorry, I was making sure I was the right spot on our list here. Kind of dive into the communication tools.
Yeah, this is going to be about screen recordings and things like that.
Yeah, so I mean, as we all know, anybody that has a spouse, right? Communication is everything, and so it's all about being able to get things across, especially when you're working virtually. And so, one of the tools, and if anybody's ever heard me speak, I'm fanatical about screencasting tools. So there's a tool called Screencast-O-Matic, is one of the ones that we use. But there was just a big problem we have when you're trying to get something communicated across to your team about giving feedback on something, or trying to explain to a virtual staff of, hey, here's how you log into our CRM system. Here's how you, go and create an opportunity, or, here's how I want you to go in and, name files, or if somebody, a graphic designer you're working with does a piece and you pop it back up on your screen, and how do you give feedback? So screencasting, we all do like Zoom sessions or Skype sessions when you share your screen, but with Screencast, they got a free version, and there's like, I don't know, I think it's like $70 a year is the paid version. But you click a button and it'll let you record your screen, your voice, and your mouse. So whatever's on your screen, you can explain, go through the whole thing. And then when you're done, you click a button, it uploads it, and you just send the link to them. And they don't have to have any software on there, and they just watch it just like they're watching, a YouTube video. And it just takes all of the lost communication out on getting things communicated. I mean, with our VAs, with our clients, like that's all we use. We actually demand that they use that because it eliminates so much in the communication process. But it's very, very efficient.
And then what do you do, Brad, for keeping everybody on the same page with whether they're using EOS or Rockefeller Habits or 4 Disciplines? What do you do in a virtual world for that?
Yeah, and one other tool I'll mention really quick as far as is from a communication on the visuals is another one called Screenshot. It's a screen capture tool that allows you to just draw a little square of what you want, and you can then copy and paste it on your clipboard and paste it in anything. So that's a really good one. Again, these will all be on that list of that little punch sheet that we put together. And in terms of collaboration I mean, all of us, having goal development systems and execution systems of some kind, right? Those of you that do EOS, you meet quarterly, you come up with what your rocks are, and people decide, determine are they on track or off track on your weekly meetings. Well, we do the same thing, with our virtual team. We have everybody, our management team come on Zoom. And we use a version called 4 Disciplines of Execution. It's actually a Stephen Covey kind of model. You can see it up on the screen here. But I'm such a big fan of it. Actually, some fellow EOers in Atlanta kind of got me onto it. But it's a super lean, simple way to develop what your key goals are. And then each member of the team has to come up with a 1 through 5 chronological set of steps to accomplish that goal. And when you have your weekly meetings, it's not just a general, hey, how are you progressing? But they put where are they on a 1 through 5 of making that happen. And each week you can see the numbers progress. So it's a really good, simple tool. And there's a link in the document here of like a kind of a quick summary, cliff notes on how we use that, and a link to a Google Doc template that you can use for scoreboarding purposes.
Awesome. One of the questions from this morning I thought was great was about getting specific feedback from employees, and how do you do that? And how do we listen to employees? And how do you systematically do that when you're not together? And this is especially hard when there are multiple levels between you and the front line. So for this, our company uses a tool called 15-5. And the premise is that each employee takes 15 minutes to write up a report that the manager can read in 5. And what's super nice about this is it cascades up. So the one employee feeds up to the manager. They can check little things from the employee's report that they want their next person that they report to read. So the feedback moves all the way up to the CEO or COO. It's fantastic. You can put it on a schedule. It has automated reminders, and it's also great for checking the pulse of the company. So 15-5, can't recommend that highly enough. And another question from this morning had to do with accountability. The question was, how do we track time so that when we know, so how do we know who is working on which project down to the minute, or so that we can provide accurate time sheets to the customers? So for this, the company uses Harvest, which is simple. There's a mobile app, there is a web app, and you can do it by project. Each employee literally puts in there, this is what I logged in, I'm working on this project, I've logged out, I've moved to the next one. Very nice for being able to track what people are working on. Let's take a moment to talk about distractions as well. So I've been working at home for a lot of years, and I don't know about you all, but I found myself spending way too much time in the New York Times or on Amazon or on Zappos, and I needed a way to decrease my propensity towards just wandering off. So super cool tool that is out there for just helping to stay focused and beat the big tech companies on this is a tool called freedom.to. And on this, you set your time parameters and you set the websites you don't want to go to or the types of websites you don't want to go to. And then when you get distracted and you type in New York Times, it just gives you, hey, Freedom, you said you didn't want to work in this at this time, go do something else. So it really helps with focus. And the other tool with distraction, similar problem is emails. At one point, I think I was checking my email 10 times an hour or something crazy. A tool that we've implemented is Boomerang Pause, Inbox Pause, where again, you set your time frames, you put an autoresponder if you want to, And you can basically say, hey, I only want my email at 8, 12, and 4. And once you do that, it's lovely. What a peace of mind, because now I'm not checking my email, because if it's not 8, 12, or 4, I don't have any. It's the same ones over there at 8, 12, or 4 before. So that's been a huge time saver for me, and a big deal.
Yeah, I mentioned too on that topic, there's a great book just called Indistractable. And I saw that pop up in my Audible recommendation. I'm like, that's what every entrepreneur needs. But it's a great audiobook. It's a quick listen that's just got a great framework of thinking about how to organize your time and to avoid distraction, because that's the biggest thing we're all fighting every day, especially right now. Our mind's floating all over, dealing with all the fiascos and crises that are kind of happening. So if you get a chance, it's a great one to check out.
Yeah, and you were to talk a little bit about project management, right? So what you're doing over there with 100 virtual assistants.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, and I mentioned, I posted it in the chat too, everybody. So I'm leveraging having a massive workforce, and it's assembling a bunch of stuff. We're putting together a kind of a survival and opportunity playbook guide that our team is assembling right now. If you just send an email to tools@outsourceaccess.com and just put CV in the subject line, I posted it in the chat here. As soon as we get that wrapped up, hopefully the very first of next week, we'll send it out to everybody. But just kind of just doing a massive assembly of all the different things related to cash flow, growth hacking strategies, all the niche opportunities and markets that are evolving because of this whole crisis that you can check out. But yeah, in terms of teamwork, in terms of project management tools, and yeah, I mean, we're managing, and we have VAs working with clients all over the world, is that we have to be hyper organized where that's concerned. So there's a lot of different ones. There's Asana, there's Trello, there's Basecamp. That's part of it's just personal preference. I think if you haven't engaged one, there's one called Teamwork, teamwork.com. It's actually an Irish company, but I think that they have done one of the best jobs of thinking through the entire user experience, all the little nuances for project management, creating workflows. I mean, literally everything happens there. Instead of flying around in email and spreadsheets, everything happens there in terms of how we manage our work. Even our VAs, we all set them up so they have assignments and stuff within it. The other thing cool about Teamwork is it has a version of Slack built into it that basically functions just like Slack, but instead of having to pay the $8 or $10 per person user per month, it's actually included as part of your Teamwork subscription. And the other thing is you can actually right click on stuff that's posted there, and then immediately you can create a task out of it. So if you're exploring and haven't engaged, highly recommend checking out Teamwork.
Yeah, we've had the same issue. Our company on the Bernard side, we used to do a lot of large-scale conversion projects. For us, when we run a big project, we sometimes need to have virtual employees as well as clients and vendors all in the same project and all responsible for different tasks that feed up to different milestones, which feed up to project outcomes. So we found a tool called Clarizen. It's a cloud-based tool to be really great for project management. Brad, just for a moment here, I've seen a lot of people have logged on just in the last 10, 15 minutes. So just as a quick housekeeping, if you have a question you'd like to speak, please just raise your hand so we can call on you. If you have a question for the group, please just put it into the Q&A area, and then other people can answer it, or we can certainly read those questions and get to those as well. And Brad, I want to go back to you for a moment. You have all these people in the Philippines. How do you know when a task is all the way done? Or I mean, I'm assuming your clients are doing new tasks all the time. What do you do to manage the task process?
As far as like specifically within Teamwork or process protocol development?
Yeah, like what's your process tool?
Yeah, so and what we actually do is, and we've got tools that you'll talk about, maybe mention as far as Process Street and Suite Process, which are two software platforms. And I know you guys use Process Street, you can speak to. And they're great tools that help you define process and protocols. Now more than ever, we got to have our processes, documented. And they're great tools for it. But if Google Docs is part of what we use, so like whenever we bring on a client, we create a Google Doc, and we have what we call our virtual assistant playbook for every single thing that they're doing for a client. We post it in a master just Google Doc that's called the playbook. And the great thing about Google Docs is, just like we've created, is everything can be clickable and linkable. And that's the great thing too about the screencasting tool. And people hate doing documentation of processes because they got to write all these bullet points. When you can just click and record your voice and your mouse and explain to someone how to do a certain workflow or process, then all we do is just put that link in there and say, all right, want to learn how to onboard a client? Click here and watch the screencast video, and they can watch it and watch the whole video. Suite Process is one that's a simpler version if people don't have any kind of tool and they're looking for one. But we use Google Docs a lot for documenting processes and just using links to screencastings.
Awesome. Yeah, super cool tool. Process Street, like you said, is the one we use. And I just love it because once we come up with, this is the exact way we want this process done, and we can then assign those cards to employees, they can do each task, and then we have the peace of mind that they actually check all those boxes. And I don't know if, how many other chapters out there have read the checklist manifesto, but after reading that, we were pretty inspired to put a bunch of processes in place and just become more consistent with them. Awesome.
And I recommend just a brief point on that too, is that if you do use a project management tool like a Teamwork, so for example, is you can create workflows and protocols within the project management tool sometimes. So instead of needing to have additional process tool on top of it, depending on how complex your processes are, you can create a process and even create dependencies. So as soon as, you know, Matt does this task, then it triggers and sends me my task, but not until you complete your portion. So you can actually make it be dependent. So check the workforce platform itself. The project management platform also has kind of process controls.
Awesome. Why don't you talk a little bit about, you have some great password management, especially again with clients, the Philippines, the United States. What do you work your process, your password management?
Yeah, that's somebody always freaks out about in working with a virtual assistant, right? Is they have to give them logins and access to things, which isn't an issue. So one that we use is Dashlane. There's a couple that are out there, but Dashlane is one. They have a free version. They have one that's $29 a year, I think, is their cost on it. It has a couple of benefits. One is that from a personal standpoint, right, for everybody that has their passwords all in an Excel sheet, right, that thing gets stolen, you're in deep trouble. Is it'll automatically save all your passwords for you, and it has a mobile app that goes on your phone. So both desktop and mobile, it's constantly syncing, so you always have your passwords. Secondly, for all of you that have your passwords, like your dog's name plus 22 pounds, right? It'll actually create encrypted passwords for you. And since it's synced to a mobile app, you always have them on in your device, so you never have to worry about memorizing all your passwords again. But in terms of working with virtual workers too, so we actually require all our clients to use this. And so if they want to give access to a VA or something to log into something, they click a button, it sends them an email and says, hey, Brad wants to let you log into his LinkedIn account, but doesn't want to give you his username and password. They download a little widget and it lets them log into things without ever having your username and password. So my VA has access to all kinds of things, like 50 things that she logs into mine. But if I ever need to disconnect, I click one button and it'll disconnect. So it's a great way of sharing. And one other thing is, if you're the spouse in your relationship that has all the logins to everything in your home, right? And if something happens to you, your spouse is going to kill you twice because they're not going to know how to log in to pay the power bill. You can actually, and also this is very good for key managers. If you have a key manager, if something happens to you, you can set it up so if someone pings and wants access and you don't deny it after a certain number of days, it will then release them full login access to all of your logins. So like my spouse or project, key manager, you can offer that. So a lot of value in these tools in a couple different directions.
Yeah, it's a huge tool. We're going to post 3 different tools like Dashlane in that document for you all to download, and they're all great. Pick one that works for you, but definitely pick one. Brad, you get a ton of meeting requests. I think you do a lot of cool things with how you handle that. You want to talk about some of your tools for juggling your 900 meeting requests per day?
Yeah, so I mean, another one, and when I speak to chapters on this stuff, I say, look, if you walk out of here with nothing else but knowing Screencast, Omatic, Dashlane, and then the other one is Calendly. And usually about 20% of the room raise their hand and they're using some kind of automatic appointment booking tool. But Calendly, there's a free version and there's one that's $10 a month. Long story short, you set it up and it syncs with your calendar, whether you're using Office or Outlook or using Gmail. And it allows you to create links so that people can book time with you without ever having to go back and forth on, sharing times. Matt emails me, hey, can we have a chat about what you do? And I have to look at my calendar and then send him a bunch of bullet points. You play this back and forth game. So all I do is send him a Calendly link that's a 30-minute. You can make them 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours. You can create different links for different links for different time links. You can create intelligence behind them to let people only book on certain days and times. Like, so for onboarding with new clients we have or VAs, they can only do that on Thursdays between certain time frames with our staff. And then people can click on it, they can see your calendar, they can book themselves, and then it automatically will load it into your calendar and into their calendar. and it can also send them content prior to the call. So it can drip emails to them if you want them to see pieces of content, look at a video testimonial, what have you, before the call, and it'll send them text reminders. So it's great for internal communications with your staff. It's great for operations and management, for onboarding with clients or meetings, but also for sales. There's one case study I share that a company, they shifted over to using this instead of just doing cold emails out saying, hey, can we find a time to chat, and provided a Calendly link, and they got a 10x increase in appointments because they just made it easy for people to book with them. When they weren't interested in their product, they just didn't have time to go search their calendar and send 9 bullet points of time that they were available. So it has a lot of benefits in a couple different directions. So I highly recommend that. And if you have a VA managing your email at some point, it's invaluable because they can just send that link back for people to book calls with you.
And to the increase in sales, we have a local EO member who started a company called ShareFile, sold it to Citrix, but just adding cameras and getting sales calls with video, the propensity for closing went up radically. I totally agree with you in Calendly for external. The other tool, though, and internally we use Google Calendars. It's just easier. People can see and just grab whatever time they want. But the other tool that I like, especially if you're doing a large group of people and you're trying to get them all together for a meeting, is just do a doodle poll. And we'll put that in the link as well. But that way you have people have options and they can see kind of what other people have picked. And for a large group, it just stops the 400 emails back and forth. So we've covered a ton of ground. And I'd like to get into the interactive, and I see a bunch of people raising their hands and asking questions. First one, though, we have Chip Dodd, who's the old past president for Southeast Virginia. Let's get him. He's got some thoughts that he'd like to share, and then after that, we're going to go to it looks like Chantel. But let's go to Chip first.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for having me on the call. I do have a green screen that I could show. I'm not sure if you're able to do the video.
I think so. Let's see.
Still there?
Yep. Now you should have a video.
The minute you did that, like my computer went dark. I was like, holy crap, I just got backed out. So, okay. So thanks for having me. Yes, I'm out in Southeastern Virginia. And luckily when I got involved in EO, I adopted as much as I could, like Zoom and things like that, because my company is spread across Southern Virginia. And I've got, basically, I've got 4 different divisions, each of which is more than an hour away, and a workforce of 300 employees. And so we've had to use a lot of these remote working for a long period of time. So let me give you guys a quick idea of basically my tech stack that we use and some of my experience shares on what works and doesn't work. First of all, we used to be based out of a normal administrative building with a server and a network and all that kind of stuff. We recently were able to get rid of all that and go with Microsoft Azure. So basically the server's up in the cloud, building could burn down, nothing bad happens. I just go, my server didn't just get annihilated. We did move to Office 365, so we use that suite of products because I do healthcare for people with disabilities, and so I needed a HIPAA compliant environment, including document sharing and things of like that nature. So if you have those kind of either I think it's PCI compliance on making transactions and things like that, you might not be able to use some of the software suites that you guys talked about. So just stay within the regulations in your company. The thing that really helped me when we went on to Basecamp as our project management software, I read the 2 books that the makers of Basecamp that authored, which is Rework, which is a lot about remote working and building a company from the ground up with a worldwide workforce, and also Remote. Both great books. They're an easy read. Highly recommended to teach a company how to this new day and age of everybody working from home with a remote office. Also, if you remember correctly, when Facebook did their IPO, everybody was talking about, oh my God, the IPO. Zuckerberg was saying everything, we need to go mobile. That's what he was talking about, because he knew that these mobile devices were the future. And any of you now know your website and all of that, the vast majority of traffic is probably via mobile. So there's lots of these things, like when Brad was talking about Screencast-O-Matic, it's amazing, works awesome on a PC, but there's also a Screencast-O-Matic mobile app that if your clients or your employees need to have training on how to clock in and out on your cloud-based payroll system, like we use Paylocity, I can use Screencast-O-Matic to show how that works on a mobile device. So I wanted to throw that in there. Let me see. We use LogMeIn to get into computers that do need to be physically present, not at your house. And so, for example, QuickBooks, I think we have 5 or 6 licenses for my finance team. They can each work at home and use LogMeIn to securely get in there and look at QuickBooks, but those computers physically live at an office that's in a secure environment with cameras and things of that nature. Works really well. Let me see what else we use. Of course, in a medical environment, there's digital health records. So if you are in that situation and you're currently on paper, I highly recommend moving to digital health records quickly as possible, because all of your client records, everything can be done from your cell phone remotely. We did transition our learning, our training for our staff over to a learning management system that's open source called Moodle. Okay, you don't have to pay for it, but you do have to build it out. But once you've done that, there is no there's no additional cost ongoing. You can also use LMSs that are a monthly fee, like Adobe has a really powerful one, but you're going to pay a per month per person fee for that. But you can have all of your staff training available, whether you use the Screencast-O-Matic or whatever. All of their staff training can be on that cell phone 24 hours a day using a online learning management system. A couple other things that I'm a big believer in. I'm trying to cover things that you guys hadn't already covered. I'm just kind of filling in the gaps on my experience. 2 monitors. If you're sending your workers home to work with a laptop, give them another monitor so you have 2 screens. One can be your Zoom screen, so you have the Brady Bunch and all the heads. The other screen is so I can be looking at the agenda or whatever the speakers are screen sharing. But I want to be able to look at the people I'm talking to and look at the document that's being shared. Having 2 screens has really been helpful for my staff, and it keeps them productive. Definitely highly recommend the headsets. They're like $10 on Amazon, whether you do one Bluetooth like Brad's got, that's pretty fancy. You don't end up yanking your cord, or it's just this, the audio comes through better. The sound, if you have a family and kids and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff you might be talking about is private, and you don't want that to get out and around in your family's environment. It also, a headset, if you're in a distracted room in your family, the headset is telling everybody around you, I'm in a meeting, don't bother me. But the minute you take the headset off, it's like, honey, are you available for dinner? Blah, blah, blah. So, so I like to use it as my don't talk to me. Let me see a couple other things. Sound dampening. I highly suggest if you're in an environment with hard walls, hang some curtains, do a tapestry, get a green screen like behind me. I'll show you real quick if you want. So the green screen, it just, you can see, I can move around, and then you look up and there's my ceiling and there's the curtain. Just freaking magic. You can be anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. I believe it adds a little bit of flair to your background and all of that. It also, if you're a company, it gives you the ability to, obviously I got my EO logo up there. And one other thing I was going to try to do, if I can find it real quick, is recently Zoom gave the capability to put video in your background. And so let me show you that real quick. Da-da-da. So thanks to Brad's team, I had a 3D rendering done of one of my group homes. So here it is. Ta-da! I'm flying through space. And so since you might be using Zoom or some other capability to do sales calls or that type of thing, you want to be able to have a professional look and feel about your Zoom experience. So, you know, you don't want your spouse walking across out of the shower in the background. So think about that type of thing as well. Anything else? And I guess one thing I did put, most of us have our computers, we just leave them on all the time. And eventually the internet starts bogging down. There are devices that you can get that you plug in your router and your modem, and then once a day, it's gonna cut it off and then turn on your modem first and then your router 2 minutes later. And basically every day you've got really fresh internet. I've been using it now a while. I love it. And then other than that, I believe that this is now the new way we're going to run our businesses. Don't think of this as a short term until we get through this in a couple weeks bullcrap. This is going to go on a long time. I would say invest the money, do the learning, look at the software that these guys are talking about, and prepare your workforce that this is the new way you do business. I think you're going to find it's financially in your best interest. It's more efficient. And now instead of our biggest problem, and I can't find good people, you have a global workforce. whether it be like Brad used guys in the Philippines, or you can get some guy out of Colorado, a lady down in Mexico. It doesn't matter. Use these tools to take your company to the next level. So,
Chip, appreciate you jumping in. Thank you so much for your feedback. And please send me some of your links so I can add them to our document. And
Sure.
again, for everybody, eoraleigh.com/coronavirus. There's going to be everything we talked about in this, and I will add in. I've got most of what Chip said down, but when he sends me the links, I will post those as well. All right, Chantal, you've been waiting patiently. I'm unmuting you and removing Chip from here, and you are on. Chantal, how can we help you today? Maybe not. Can you hear us? I'm going to come back. Chantal, if you can hear us, send me a chat and I'll come back to you. Robert, Paulin, you are next. If you could go ahead and tell us what chapter you're from, what business you're in, and what the question or comment is.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Great. Yeah, so Rob Poland with Autoscribe Corporation, and I'm from the DC chapter. And thanks really for making this available to us. Myself and our leadership team are really appreciative. We wanted to kind of use this opportunity to, with a lot of employees working from home at least temporarily, to sharpen their technical skills and product knowledge skills. And we're looking for recommendations for a learning platform to help get that up and running and quickly and help us standardize this. Our product manager we've tried Noodle before, but it wasn't great from a usability standpoint. So if there's relevant experience about, Noodle's more set up for like running an academic course. So if there's relevant experience for something else that might have worked, that we can really help disseminate product knowledge and how to do things process-wise, that would be very, very helpful for us to build out.
Matt, I can speak to that real quick.
Take it, Brett.
Well, so a couple things. So one is, again, going back to that screencast-o-matic tool, as far as capturing, that's exactly how we do all of our training for everything. So using that screencast-o-matic tool, you can record stuff and then quickly just push it to the web and let them host it. If it's a quick little thing you're just giving feedback on, you don't care about saving. But if it's what I call like evergreen content you want to use long-term, like training content, you can actually save the video. So once you record, explain how to do everything, then you can save it actually as an MP4 file, as a video file, and then upload it to whatever platform you want, whether you want to organize your learning within Google Docs, which you can do. But if you're looking for a specific platform to host educational and learning, Trainual is a great tool, and Teachable are both good online platforms for hosting content if you want to have a web-based organized tool to host content. Those are the two. But Screencast is what you can use to really capture a lot of the training of everything that you're wanting done, and to save the video files, and you can use those tools if you want to host it in an organized format. And Teachable's got a free version. They have a paid version, but I know a lot of companies that actually host all their stuff there, and then Trainual is another one.
Yeah, the two that I've heard about and worked with are Guru and Lynda as well, but in addition to the two that Brad said. So those are good suggestions. Thank you, Robert. Again, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we can call on you or put it in the Q&A. Brad, we have a question from Paul. Paul cannot attend his SETI. How can we ensure that employees are working and not wasting time or having family time rather than actually working? Is it recommended to track their work activity, mouse movement, website visits, etc.? And what are some good tools for attendance and time card on the clock? So I know we talked about Harvest earlier and Time Tracker, but what are your philosophical thoughts on this, Brad? And how would you answer Paul's question?
Yeah, so a couple things. So one is, you don't want to feel like you're a big brother, right, with everybody. I mean, part of it is, if any of you guys have read kind of Row, the results only work environment, is part of that is we try and have that mentality partly with our, with our staff. At the end of the day, it's about what am I trying to get from you, what needs to be accomplished versus micromanaging every single second of what you're doing. Because when people are working virtually from home as well, that's part of the benefit is they can flex a little bit. They may have an hour off here where they take care of something, but they replace that hour at another time that they're doing things. Or they maybe need to order something quickly on Amazon or something they forgot about or what have you. So part of it is just, if you hired them and they're the right person to begin with, right, it's about getting the right kind of work done and having that sort of mentality. But if you have concerns there, as he shared, that Harvest tool and then Time Doctor is one that we'll use. We put on on staff to be able to track their time, and they can actually click a button on when they're working on different projects. And when we do that, frankly, it's more about, hey, look, we want to get an assessment of where you're spending your time so that we can help give you the right support resources to be most efficient. Right. So part of it's the delivery of how you talk about that. Not that I want to sit on your shoulder and make sure that you're working, but also so I can see how your time is being organized, where you're spending your time. And, if there's low level activities that you're doing, how can we get those, off your plate? So it's just part of it is how you deliver it.
Awesome. We're covering a lot of ground here. A couple specific questions regarding human resources and virtual human resources, if that's of concern. Bamboo HR is one that I'm familiar with, which allows you to do kind of your complete everything from your recruiting to your onboarding to your employee documentation storage on the cloud. There's another cool tool out there called Rippling, which takes HR a step further by adding device management and application access. So those would be two cool HR tools. Again, if you have a question, we just have a couple minutes left. Please raise your hand or Q&A panel. We are knocking these out left to right. Earlier, Brad, people were talking about remote development teams. And the recommendations there were GitHub for code repository, Jira and Asana for software management. And I feel like there's one more that I'm blanking on. Let me see here. They like VS Code's LiveShare or Tmux as well. And someone else talked about Sublime Text, which is real-time code sharing across platforms. So some helpful hints for remote developers. All right, one more question. It looks like Michael Osborne is asking, we use MS Teams internally. Is there a way to use MS Teams to talk to outside vendors and customers via video call or audio call? Brad, do you know the answer to that with regards to Teams?
I don't. We haven't used MS Teams before. I'm not sure on that one from a technical standpoint. Well, so maybe Michael, Mark can answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, Michael, the person to talk to would be Mark Fassel. I'm sending you I'll give you an answer via chat. It's also the document, but he can help you out with that. Wait, we have one more question, and we'll end with Richard Shinnick. And Richard, you can tell us again what chapter you're from and what business you're in.
Yes, I am from New York, and I just wanted to answer that question. You can do Teams with outside parties. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you can do Teams with outside parties, but they need to install the program, and it's been a barrier. A lot of people don't want to install yet another communications program, but if you can get past that, the other thing is it doesn't have a dial-in number, so they have to have a microphone on their computer to use it or use their cell phone.
Ah, okay. Those are two big limitations. Perfect. Thank you for that. Glad we can get that cleared up. Well, thank you everybody for making time today. As Todd said in the beginning, we have thrown these together as fast as possible. We're hoping to provide as much content that's relevant to you. I'm launching a quick poll, just asking you, was this worth your time? So if you could answer that, and there'll be another thumbs up, thumbs down survey at the end of this. There's a call tomorrow at 2:30 on the disaster loans in the SBA done by Rich Rusikoff. And on a week from today, Randy Nelson will be doing one on contingency planning. So again, if you have Todd's email is in the chat, I believe. And if you have suggestions, and my email's there, if you have suggestions of things we can do or content you would like to see that we can produce for you, we're happy to do it. I'm going to turn it over to Brad for any last words, and then Todd to wrap it up.
No, thanks again for putting this together. And again, EO's been a huge part of my life and given a ton to me over the last 7 years. So any of you, you'll have our emails and stuff in the document. And as I share, we're getting a survival guide put together. We're actually trying to create a searchable database. And if any of you are specific experts on topics, we're trying to assemble all the experts in EO and different things. I'm actually having a developer put together a searchable database to kind of organize that so people can get the stuff that they need. Email that to me as well as we're trying to get that assembled. But going virtual, it's definitely a different ball game. Feels a little uncomfortable maybe to begin with, but using these tools hopefully will give you guys a lot of the shortcuts. And just one thing I'll mention too is just on culture is just, try and use tools. There's little badges we create that we post in Skype and on Slack. Like, when somebody does a great job, we have our Outsource Access, like Excellence Badge Award, and just doing little things like that with just little graphics that we post and shout out to somebody that did a great job. I mean, you just get reams of accolades and people congratulating one another. So you truly can create a culture virtually as well if you put in the effort. So that's some of the stuff we'll include that we're trying to put together in this guide. So thanks again for the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you, Matt. This has just been amazing. Two showings, and then the content, the takeaways are absolutely amazing. Clicking through all those links on the website. I think the key takeaway for me, which is the silver lining here, is that if we all implement just a handful of these strategies in our own collective businesses now, we're going to come out of this thing stronger. I, for one, have kind of a bit of a technology procrastinator. And obviously this is forcing my hand to implement more things that have been on the to-do list maybe a little longer than they should be. And you guys have already distilled down which ones we should be looking at in that extra document. EO, go ahead, Matt, with the link one more time, and it's for the downloads.
eoraleigh.com/coronavirus, and just scroll down to the work at home, and the download's available now. It's a living document, so I'm going to update some of the suggestions that came up today from Chip, and we'll put that in there. But feel free to go there. That's also information on the Advantage outsourcing documents and on Mark Fussell and Microsoft Teams and free consulting for EO members.
Fantastic. Well, I hope to see some of you guys tomorrow and some of you next week, Wednesday, for Randy's event. And tomorrow we'll be talking about loans, SBAs, and kind of what this new banking environment is going to look like for a lot of us. So that should be a really, really great piece of content. I don't know if Randy's still online and would like to say a few words about Wednesday. I did see him online earlier. It's really up to him.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
We got you loud and clear, Randy.
Okay. Yeah, I look forward to hearing Rich tomorrow. He's going to have a lot of great information. I think for next Wednesday, I think it's not a question of really with this environment for a lot of us. It's a question of not if but when for contingency planning. So I would look forward to sharing some information on that with everybody. We're in a period of unknown and uncertainty, and there just is no. I don't think any of us can put a firm date or time frame on when it's going to change. So contingency planning is almost a must right now.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being here. It's great to be a part of EO right now. Really. See you guys.
Everybody. Have a good day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.